Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to That's a Shoot. It's our normally weekly episodic show. We do take time off. We took a week off last week. That was actually kind of for other reasons. We had some time issues and some other things, and just need to take a week off, and that's okay. Sometimes it's good to take a week off. But normally, this is the weekly show where I talk about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. This week we got a couple topics to talk about, and then we're going to talk about the main topic as you can see in the title. So let's go ahead and let's get it right into it. Alright, so to start things off, we're going to talk about the big blood and guts match that happened this past Wednesday on AEW Dynamite. I thought for the most part it was good. I think there were things obviously that were, there were some things that were mismanaged or not thought of. I don't think that type of match is a match that needs to be done on live television. It's a match that's destined for pay-per-view. It's good because the commercials were, just threw it off, and then you could kind of also tell that the action wasn't happening too much during the commercials, except for one part when I think Wardlow got in or something like that. I forget who it was, but yeah, so they got in. The commercial, and at one point, especially at the end, when MJF goes up to the top and Chris Jericho is just hanging off of the corner of the cage, and he's waiting for his cue to come back. So when they come back commercial, tell him, and then he goes and climbs up, and so it was, yeah. That's for a pay-per-view. You don't put that on, or you don't put that on television. And I probably would have said that beforehand. I don't know why that's going to be on television in the first place. That should be at the pay-per-view. And guess what? You have a pay-per-view later on this month, May 30th, I think is it. Why not just wait until May 30th and put it at Double or Nothing, and then have it on Double or Nothing, and if you make it a yearly thing every year on Double or Nothing, a blood and guts match, just like every year Fall Brawl, right? So, it's whatever it was, but yeah, I thought it was really good. I also thought that it was way too long. I thought it was too long. I think because once all the competitors got in, then the match starts, and usually from the old school ones I've seen the old school ones. The match kind of goes, for about another 10 minutes at the most. This went about another 25 minutes. It felt, at least it felt like 25 minutes. After, everything went down. So he did all of that, and he still went, and it was kind of long. So I don't think that should be that long of a match. I really don't. So and especially like if you see, because one of the things that NXT has been criticized for, and I think I criticized them too, is that they do a lot of weapons in the war game, because since they can't do blood, since they got a roofless cage, climb out, something like that, and everything like that. They kind of add to it by just putting in there, and and having the weapons be there. And I don't think there's no need to bring a bunch of tables and a bunch of chairs and things like that. Now there was a couple chairs, some barbed wire as well, and they did use the blood. Um, MJF, Dax and Cash bled, and Sammy, I guess, was supposed to bleed, but he didn't. He wimped out on the blood, I guess, or didn't just whatever, or did a blood capsule or something. Who knows? But yeah, so they did all that. Um, but yeah, it was what it was. So that too long. Now, and not weapons field, which is good. They did all Jericho parts back. They did that. They tore up the ring and worked on the ring. So I think that was yeah. So I think that could have been. So I thought that was. I was okay. I can. I'm not saying that the WWE needs to add blood, to their, to their war games, but I do think they need to add less weapons. They need to add less weapons, and and it's like somebody else said, NXT war games has become more of a stunt show than a fight, and this war game was a fight. The only stunt that they did was at the end. And we can do that. Talk about that in a second. Because that's on a larger topic. But yeah. So yeah, for overall the Pinnacle won, and I'll tell you why in a minute. The Pinnacle won, and yeah. Again, like I said, there was some the finish was flag. Um, but I think it was. It was pretty good. I gave it 3.5 stars as a total for a match. So it's good, and if they're gonna continue to do it, that's fine. I think Cody wants to do what his stuff that his father did. He wants to have some of the stuff of his father. He's not gonna let some of that stuff go. They're not gonna let stuff like Starcade and Great American Bash go just so they can, just so they can get it. I think on one kind of hand, it would be nice if they would give them Bash. I think that's the three things he wants. He wants War Games, he wants Great American Bash, and he wants Starcade. Those are the three things he wants to take over to AEW. So I think you should let them have it. You don't use Starcade. You use the Great American Bash you've kind of used for NXT over the last 2 years or so, and of course you use War Games. You can share War Games, and give them like Great American Bash Starcade. Let them have that, but you can share War Games. It doesn't make a difference. Just let them call it something else. Like you can let them go say call it War Games, Blood and Guts. That's what you wanted to do. You could just call it for your match War Games. You have your trademark for War Games or NXT War Games or E War Games. At some point, War Games probably will in WWE. I just have a feeling that this at some point will end up. The old man passes on, but it's probably will happen. It will be in that match. So yeah. So speaking of the ending of the Blood and Guts had MJF threatened to throw Chris off the stage until someone surrendered, and Sammy Guevara of the Inner Circle surrendered. And so MJF, did the usual thing where he let him go, and he posed and everything like that. And then when he did, he picked him up and pushed him off the stage, and he fell onto a crash pad that was covered with with steel, like steel lining. It wasn't a real steel thing, steel stuff, so we did like that. So fell off into that, and I said this thing fell flat, and what I mean by that is it fell flat because of the way that it looked. It's, he fell into where little steel, where little fake steel stuff. And so that fell kind of flat because, if you're gonna try to take that fall, um, and listen, Jericho's 50 and something like that. It probably would have been better if it was one of the younger guys, and maybe they could have done something else, with the thing, anything like that. But it just wasn't. I guess it just wasn't, there, or they couldn't do anything or something like that. Um, but yeah, so it kind of fell flat. Now, having said that, a lot of people have been criticizing that fall because I guess they wanted something, that they wanted him to fall on real stairs, or they wanted him to 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 do something else, to not land on a crash pad or something like that, or something like that. But it's, I don't know. I'm not sure what they wanted. You know, they were criticizing it, and they liked it, and they hated it so much, I guess, that AEW gave fans refunds from it. That much. They hated it that much that AEW had to give some fans refunds. And I just don't get this. This is what I think there's something wrong with a lot of the wrestling fans. It's like what they want is, and I'm not sure if it's because they've grown, or if they've grown up, or if they've gone back and seen things where you get guys like Mick Foley throwing themselves off of stuff and hitting the concrete back first, head first, taking bumps on solid concrete, or if they go back and, of course, taking the bump off of Hell in a Cell or something like that, or anything like that, and they see Shane McMahon do all of this stuff, past and present, and he's been thrown off of things or anything like that. And yes, I will say that. And see, and here's what I was talking about, because I don't want you to think that I'm like one of these guys and complaining that Jericho took the fall. I don't know. Listen, he's 50 years old, and that's whatever it is good. For me, I would have done Sammy. I would have done Sammy or one of the other ones, and I would have maybe had some other thing, maybe like some tables, so that he could have gone through the tables and hit a cash grab, because I think that would have been a better look for it, and I think it helps him out, right? Or I would have had the stage just been gimmicked, and then they could have flew through, and then it could have been maybe like a wood stage, or maybe it's maybe like something like that, and just have the gimmick to that was under it was a crash pad, so you could have went through the stage, something like that, so that it looks better. Because when you think about, like, when Shane jumped off the sails those 2 times, or when Kevin Owens was thrown off the top of the cage in the steel cage, it was you knew there was a crash pad there, you knew it was safe, but it's still, that collision of the body against the wood made a noise, made a sound, and it broke. So I think that's what could have happened. and it still could have been safely, and it still would have, and it would have been more impactful than that. But it really probably should have been padding on it, from the very beginning. And the padding it's not like apparently it's not that all that thick of a padding. It's just enough to cover up the thing so that people aren't actually truly landing on actual steel. But it's still a pad. It's just as thick as the stuff that goes around the ring, and that's not something that that you just land on. It doesn't slow or anything like that, but it just shows you that you're not landing on concrete. So I think if people want Jericho to everyone Jericho fall like I said to maybe if it was didn't land on the floor or maybe fall stay on the pad, be understandable. But if you just wanted him to fall and maybe hit concrete or something, why would you want that for somebody that you claim to be a fan of? So I'm not sure about that. WWE on A&E continued this past week with a biography on the Macho Man Randy Savage, which was good. And I think in this one, it's a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there was a few people who thought this was a hit piece on Randy Savage, or it was and it wasn't like the ones with Stone Cold and Roddy Piper, but it seemed to be a lot more positive. There's a lot more other negative aspects to this one, but I think that's part of the story. I think that's part of the story. I don't think Macho Man wasn't his character wasn't or his person wasn't like that. It wasn't like that where, and maybe if you want to talk about Steve, the stuff maybe he was alleged of doing with Deborah, hitting Deborah. Okay, that's that's one thing, but but they didn't bring that up. But but they brought all of this stuff up with Macho Man because that's part of the story, and they had the stuff for Liz, and that's part of the story. So there's a lot for it there. I thought it was still good. I thought it showed what the Macho Man was and who he was, and it was a great documentary. It still is. And next week is Booker T, and that's gonna be good. And as for the Hidden Treasure show, this one was Jerry the King Lawler, and this one's pretty good. The Hidden Treasure show, I mean, I think at the end of this, they're going to announce that a Hall of Fame is going to be, a museum is going to be built. So, you just wouldn't have all these other things being, being done for it. So, really, really good. Next week, also think it's going to be Booker T. So it's going to be a back-to-back Booker T thing. Where he goes from, where we're going to get the biography of Booker T trying to find some of his stuff. So that should be very interesting. And then finally, before we get to the main topic, Dark Side of the Ring is back. Last night was the first episode, 2 hour close to episode about Brian Pillman Sr. And really, again, another story about just what it is and kind of man Brian Pillman was, and unfortunately, I think he had a lot of demons, and it starts from his childhood with all the surgeries and everything like that with his voice, and ended up having the raspy voice, and then going into football and things like that. The person who stole the show seemed to be this guy, Kim Woods. That seemed to be the guy who stole the show. He stole the show from from this because he had some interesting lines, and he was one of the guys who guess who helped Bryan get into the heart dungeon and everything like that. So this guy Kim Woods, even when he's the one that stole the show. So, and we went through everything, went through all of the life, the accidents, the him pitting WCW and WWE against each other, and Eric Bischoff seems. Listen, I'm not sure what it is, but from what everything is been told, Brian Pillman, this is almost like in the Macho Man documentary, but Hulk Hogan goes, Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat wasn't trying to upstage him. Ricky Steamboat comes right after him and says, we were trying to upstage him. And it seems like at this point where it goes where, Jim Cornette talked on a story about how, he, Brian Pillman worked Eric Bischoff into releasing them, and Kim Woods says, well, you worked him into releasing them, and he says, no, he didn't do that. He didn't work me into releasing me. This was us doing this together so that he could go off and become big money and I could bring him back and give him the money that he wanted. So I don't know. It's one of those things where there are certain folks who have different. Everybody has their story. Eric Bischoff is one of those guys that seem to have a different side to a story for what most other people seem to take as the truth. I'm not saying he's lying, but I'm saying that he has his own story. And so maybe that's what he's feeling. Maybe he's saying that's what he thought. He thought that he was going to help Bryan, with all of this. He was helping Bryan, and maybe so maybe that's what it is. But anyway, again, it was a great story, great start to the season. I'm not looking forward to next week though with Nick Gage and all of that crazy CCW stuff and everything like that. I'm not a big fan of that. Not a big fan of those death matches and things like that. So that's going to be kind of like that. And I'll give you an update next week on some of those other things as well. So last Friday, WWE had a match between Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan, stating that if Daniel Bryan would lose, he would have to leave SmackDown forever. Now, a lot of people, including myself, said, "Okay, leave SmackDown." Okay, so he'll leave SmackDown and then he'll go back and he'll be on Raw, he'll be on NXT or anything like that, right? Actually, that's not the case. Well, at least right now, because right now Daniel Bryan's contract is expired. Daniel Bryan roster, he was moved into the alumni section. Daniel Bryan is not contracted with WWE, and that is something that is kind of crazy, because you just. But we knew it was coming because he had said for a while that he wanted to go away from being a full-time wrestler. At some point, he wanted to be with his family. He's got kids now, young kids, and he wants to watch them get up there and grow and everything like that. So I'm sure there are probably some, so there are probably a lot of different reasons why he is, but still, it just doesn't feel right. So Daniel Bryan is gone. The WWE was pushing hard for Daniel Bryan to try to resign, but he didn't. So who knows? And there's even a report saying that AEW doesn't think that Daniel Bryan is going to be coming to AEW, and there's a report that some people in WWE doesn't think that Daniel Bryan is coming back to WWE as well. So yeah, so I think the reason why they decided to say SmackDown is to leave it open so that if Daniel Bryan can come back, he'll come back to NXT and he'll come back to Raw. Because I think something Daniel Bryan did say that Daniel Bryan wanted to go to NXT and wrestle some people down there. Has Daniel Bryan and Finn Balor ever had a wrestling match? Think about it. When Finn Balor was called up to the main roster, and he was on the main roster big time, that was when Daniel Bryan was that was when Daniel Bryan was Daniel Bryan had been the SmackDown GM, and he wasn't wrestling at the time. And so, Daniel Bryan versus Finn Balor would, be a good match. And think about probably some people that he hasn't wrestled that is on Raw, maybe, because Daniel Bryan's been on SmackDown, ever since he came back. So that's wild. That's wild. That is what it is. So. And I know he's going to do wrestle some other stuff outside as well. He probably wants to go back to, Ring of Honor, and there might be a little bit where he goes to AEW. Although I get the feeling that he, if he goes to AEW, he doesn't he doesn't go back to WWE. And if he does go to AEW again, I don't think it's like a major thing. I think he goes in, he does something like that. It's gonna be like an old school vibe with him. He's going to come in for 3 or 4 months and then leave, and then he'll take some time off, and then maybe he'll go back to Ring of Honor, do 3 or 4 months and then leave, and then maybe he'll go back to WWE, do 3 or 4 months and leave. But it is kind of amazing that Daniel Bryan was good. According to some reports, Daniel Bryan knew that he was going to leave before WWE before WrestleMania. He knew that. So and that's why all those promos were like, he's going to be giving my last WrestleMania, and this is going to be this, and perhaps this is my last minute, everything like that. So he knew that he had he had no more years, or he was going to leave WWE. I remember seeing about 3 weeks ago or so. I remember there was a thing out there on Twitter from a news organization that said, Daniel Bryan would actually like to have a thing where he could be contracted with WWE, but he could be able to go and wrestle other things, and he was trying to get that. Trying to get that done, but obviously, I guess it hadn't been done. So, yeah, there is. This you can't believe it. You really can't believe it. So let's quickly look back upon the career of Daniel Bryan in WWE. It was incredible. He starts off with on NXT with the Miz and everything like that, and doing the stuff with him. And then that turns into a rivalry with the Miz. And then first of all, that becomes the Nexus, and then he gets fired because he pulls the neck with Justin Roberts, the necktie Justin Roberts, so he does that. Gets rehired months later for the 7-on-7 match between WWE and the Nexus, or the 6-on-6 match, whatever it is. He gets hired back for that. Then he goes into the feud with the Miz and everything like that, and he gets some following, and then he becomes he wins Money in the Bank, and he becomes the heavyweight champion and everything like that. And then apparently what started the Yes movement was at WrestleMania 27 or something like that, whatever it was. The 28, I guess that would have been 28, right? Yeah, that would have been because it was The Rock. February 28 when Bryan gets beat by Sheamus in 12 seconds, and friends were like, what? Sheamus was the good guy and Bryan was the heel. Still he gets that, and Bryan does that, and then that becomes the Yes movement, and then he has the stuff with Kane, and it becomes their Team Hell No, and they just become great entertainment on TV. doing great things. Kane becomes becomes one of the best scared characters of all time. Then Bryan is still incredible, and they're doing all the hug things. And everybody, Dr. Shelby, and Dr. Shelby was a great character at the time as well. They go through all of that, and then he gets over, and then fans start to want him to be the guy. Where he has that match with John Cena at SummerSlam, and if he wins it, because they put the title on him, Randy Orton cashes in his Money in the Bank on him, and then they go back and then he wins it again, and then they do all of that. So, and then they were gonna do the whole Randy Orton versus Batista, but the fans did not want that, and boy, the fans heard it at Royal Rumble 2004 and just booed everybody. But there wasn't Daniel Bryan, and he decided to change the thing, and that's another topic for another day. But you gotta stop doing that. That's because these fans don't like nothing. These fans don't like nothing, and I was gonna say, they aren't really fans. They aren't really fans. They're more like complainers. These ain't fans. So let's get that through the head as well. But then like that, we could then we have the WrestleMania and all this stuff, and then he gets hurt and he has to give up the title, and then he comes back and he wins the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 31. And he has to give that up, and then he has to retire and yada yada yada. And he goes to being SmackDown GM. Then he gets cleared and he makes a comeback, and then he becomes the Planet's champion. And turns heel because the Planet's champion, has a good run doing that. That helps Kofi with Kofi Mania, although he wanted to do it with Ali. Actually, he wanted to make Ali a star. It turned out to be Kofi Kingston. And then everything like that. Then we get another turn from the babyface turn to Daniel Bryan, and he becomes the person he was now. And then he spent the last year, and then he's trying to make stars, and that's good on him. So I think overall he had a pretty damn good career, in WWE. When you talk about his entire catalog, it's a wonderful career. He's one of he'll go down as one of the better wrestlers of all time. He's probably in that. He's probably in that top 25. I think he's probably in that top 25 when you talk about all-time wrestlers. But yeah. So, but his full career is not over. His WWE career is over as of right now. But I do expect him to pop up somewhere, Ring of Honor, SmackDown on Raw or NXT, AEW, maybe even Impact. Who knows where he'll be? But I expect to see Bryan Danielson show up somewhere, and that's going to be a interesting part. But again, Daniel Bryan is gone from WWE. I think we'll see him there and again, but I don't think it'll be very soon. Alright, y'all. If you guys have any thoughts about anything I talked about, put your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know down in the comment section. Make sure you go to patreon.com/AJTRIP to become a Patreon. Once you hit a certain amount of Patreons, you will be able to determine what you see here on my YouTube channel, what video games I will play on my Twitch channel, and what topics I will talk about on my podcast. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy AJTRIP signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there, and I am out.